Hello and welcome back to another episode, the final episode of this season for the ResearchWorks podcast.
Final episode? How did that happen?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, there's been quite a few episodes this season, hasn't there?
Yes. In fact, this is 25th episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is.
As in all time. Yeah, in all
time. Total, not this season. We haven't been that, I mean, we've been busy, but not that busy.
Yeah.
But it has been a big season for the ResearchWorks podcast, hasn't it, Dayna?
It has been so huge. We've done so much. In this one season alone, we've done 55 episodes.
Wow.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
We've had a lot of conversations with a lot of really cool people.
And we've learned a lot, haven't we?
We have. I feel like my brain always just goes, but, you know, it's nothing quite like the feeling of being on top of what's going on in the research world.
That's it. So as we do every season, we thought we would come back together, have a reflect on what we've learned, who we've spoken to.
Good idea.
The kind of the big take-home messages for us, but I'm sure for a lot of our listeners as well.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. And I think at the end of the day, there's 55 episodes, and this might just help you to sort of hone in on some areas that you might want to go back and listen to. And yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we've wrapped it up as some of our, I suppose, highlights.
Yeah.
But being the researchers that we are, I can't help myself. It's taken a bit of a thematic approach to what we've covered this season, with a few of the, the really key highlights scattered throughout there as well.
No, that's good. I love that you've put everything into themes. It is the true researcher in you. I love it. So I love it. It's great way to talk about it.
And it's nice when you see them come out of episode, it's not something that we, I suppose, intentionally set out to do, but every season it's very clear that there are these really kind of overarching themes that, are reflected in the research and the people that we're speaking to.
And when you talk about knowledge translation, if you can really capture the themes, it doesn't matter which area you work in. Well, we all are all moving in the same direction, and the evidence is building. So if you want to be really evidence-based in your practice, just implementing some of the themes, it's going to be a great way to start doing that.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it's really, I think, we're moving to more of a transdiagnostic approach to how we do things. So and I think those themes really speak to that approach, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But before we do that, I've got a little surprise for you.
The way you say it, I feel so excited and nervous all at the same time.
Because we normally do an icebreaker with our guests.
Yes.
But because it's the last episode of the season, I thought we would take something from a very well-known late night show.
Oh, I've always wanted to go on late night shows.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
The Colbert questionnaire. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not sure I've heard of the Colbert questionnaire, but I know who Colbert is.
Yeah, so Stephen Colbert has this questionnaire. It's 15 questions. Don't worry, we're going to do quick fire.
Okay.
So we won't labour on them for too long.
Cool.
But he claims that these 15 questions capture the entire human experience. So in answering these 15 questions, we will know infinitely more about each other.
I love it. Take it away. I can't wait. Oh,
some
my goodness.
Of them, in our wisdom, some of them are questions we've used as icebreakers before in some of our other episodes. But, we grow, we change.
True.
The answers might be different.
Oh, we might be incredibly consistent. We'll see. We'll find out.
All right. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The best sandwich.
Prosciutto, rocket, and mozzarella.
Ooh.
In a really soft roll. You?
A chicken schnitzel, cheese, lettuce, and a really good mayo.
Nice, crunch and creamy. Love it. Good.
Yep.
Love it.
What's one thing you own that you should really throw out?
Oh, probably like my slippers that you wear around the house. You wear them inside the house thinking it's clean, but it should just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, my goodness. You?
Every single beauty product that I own, or like self-care products like moisturizers, shampoos, things like that, I panic when they get low and I buy a new one, and then I keep the empty one in the bathroom cupboard just in case the other one runs out and I need a little bit more. Just throw them out, Ash.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. What is the scariest animal?
The bat. all the movies like Indiana Jones, the bats come out, and then when you see them flying out at you, they come to your throat and they give you a disease and
vampires,
and vampires and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So when people see bats and they go, wow, look, bats, I go, run.
And they have a lot of like disease. Like, I don't want to stigmatize the bat, but they do carry a lot of things, don't they?
Yes, they scare me.
That's fair enough.
What about you?
I think the scariest animal would be a shark.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're meeting a shark, the outcome's not going to be great.
You've met the end.
Unless you're Mick Fanning.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
Punch the shark in the nose. But
Lara Croft does.
I'm going to go shark.
Shark?
Yeah.
Good one. I would agree. That'll be my next scary one.
Apples or oranges?
Apples. So I can make apple pie.
Oh.
Yeah. You?
I'm an oranges girl.
Oranges. Vitamin C, the deficiency there.
Citrus burst.
See, that's good too.
Yeah. It is a tough one. Have you ever asked someone for an autograph?
Yes. The only time I did that was when I was about 12 years old and I was at Disneyland and I went up to Mickey Mouse and asked for his autograph. That's the only time I've done it. I think
that's fair. I think we're showing our age here because a lot of kids these days would be taking selfies with people, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. I saw a lot of that on the telethon weekend. Actually, I didn't see any autographs. I saw a lot of photos.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
The autograph is dying, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
Well, have you had any autographs from anyone?
Oh, yeah. I had an autograph book when I was younger.
Yes.
And I used to go to, this is a very Perth-specific thing, but I used to go to the Hopman Cup every year. So a big tennis fan. And I used to see how many tennis players I could get to sign that autograph book. I think my mum still has it somewhere.
Yeah, she can grab it. It's probably worth something.
Oh. Okay. It's a bit philosophical. What do you think happens when we die?
We go into this another sphere. We can watch everyone live their life. And every now and then it can be a little bit spooky if you want to. And, just thinking about Halloween, I suppose. But I think we go to a place that's far, far better and everything's very, very happy and there's chocolate everywhere and there's apple pie and there's all-you-can-eat buffet.
I like it.
Is that good?
I want to go there, yeah. If that's where we end up, that's great.
What do you think?
What do I think happens when we die? I don't know.
It's a deep one.
It is. I don't know what happens when we die.
Okay.
I think is my answer to that. But
Fair
I hope
point.
there's chocolate.
Yeah, hopefully there's a lot of great
That'd
stuff
be
on the
great.
other side. Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Favourite action movie?
Speed.
Speed.
Yeah.
What a classic.
Absolute classic. I don't think we should watch it again. I think it was good at the time, but I am and was a huge fan of Keanu Reeves. Yeah, I love it. Because then you go to John Wick and everyone just gets shot, but at least that one was just action.
Yeah, okay.
Right? That was good.
Yeah.
You?
I don't know if this is technically considered an action movie. It probably is. The Departed. Have you seen that?
The Departed.
It's a more recent one.
I don't think I have.
I'm going to throw to producer Ed. Would you consider that an action movie?
No, but I'll let you run with it.
Okay. I was just really proud of myself that I made it all the way through because not great with violence and things like that. And
so the fact that it's called The Departed.
I feel quite accomplished that I made it to the end of that movie.
So I should watch it?
I think, yeah. It's quite a good story.
Okay.
It's not just action.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like a good story action. Okay. I'll add that one to my list.
Okay, we're officially halfway through.
Okay. I love it.
Favourite smell?
Ooh, I remember we did this recently and I felt kind of bad about what I'd said because it wasn't like a lovely smell. I'm going to go with my theme, apple pie. Clearly, I need to have some apple pie right now. Yeah, it's because last night I said no to dessert and I shouldn't have done it. And they had a tarte tatin on the menu and I always say yes, but I was too full and I'm in full regrets. Full regrets today, clearly.
You only regret the desserts you don't eat.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back tonight. What about you? Favourite smell?
Favourite smell? Today it's the ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah.
It's quite warm today. That makes sense.
It is.
Yeah, I like it.
Least favourite smell?
Least favourite smell. I would say, everyone loves durian when I go to Malaysia.
Oh, no.
And that smells bad. Yeah. I can eat it if I'm in the right mood and like there's enough air ventilation. Like the taste is different to the smell, but the smell is quite overwhelming.
It is.
That would be
I agree
mine.
with you.
Yeah, thank you. I think most people would.
Yeah.
You?
It's a firm stance on this. Tin tuna. Always.
That's consistent. I like it. Well done.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay, question 10. Exercise. Worth it?
Totally. Yes. Right? Yeah, because it lets me have more ability to have more apple pie. There has to be some balance somewhere.
Right.
I ran this morning and I'll be thinking a lot about my apple pie.
Yeah.
Yes,
You had a real crisis of confidence there.
I really did, didn't I? Yeah. You?
Always
Yes or no?
worth it.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't always
right.
feel like doing it,
No.
but the outcome is always a positive one.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Question 11. Flat or sparkling?
Sparkling, 100%, all the way. You?
Yeah. Yeah, sparkling.
Yeah, it's posh.
Little fizz, little
It's lovely.
boost.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yep. Goes and it's a good palate cleanser between courses.
I agree.
Yep.
The most used app on your phone?
At the moment, it's probably Google Maps. Or photos, or my photos one. I like going there a lot. Actually, I love looking at the memories because I take so many photos now. I forget what I've taken and the memories that remind me of stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good time.
I'm using my
that.
photo one a lot at the moment
Yeah?
as well. Yeah,
Photos app.
yeah, I think so.
It's a good one.
Mm.
Yep.
Okay. You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
I want it that way. Probably. It's like a really easy go-to, or it will just have to be like, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? Like
That's the only song you can listen to for the rest of your life.
Oh, I don't know now. Now I'm in trouble. Maybe it needs to be a proper instrumental so it doesn't drive me nuts. Like a good Dream Theatre piece. Really love Dream Theatre.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so some progressive rock. That could
Yeah.
be really good.
Yeah.
So they've got plenty of instrumentals too. I don't know
They're
the name of
long?
all their songs. Yeah, they're long.
yeah.
They go for 20 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, actually, I have those songs going on repeat in my head anyway. I don't need to listen to it. It's in there.
Okay.
That's a good point. Oh,
Yeah.
God, that was a hard one. You?
Yes, I'm thinking of maybe something long, something that kind of keeps you interested. I'm thinking like Jeff Buckley, Hallelujah, something like that.
Oh, yes, yes. You'll be
Or-
thinking deeply, though, for the rest of your life.
Or an Elton John number.
Oh, okay, cool. Something that you
Can't put my
dance to.
finger on which one.
Okay.
Maybe Jeff Buckley for now. We'll go
Okay.
with Jeff Buckley
That's
for
a
now.
good one.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Oh, gosh.
Question 14. What number am I thinking of?
45.
Oh, no.
What number am I thinking of?
3.
No.
45? Should have said
You
45.
should have. Because I couldn't get it out of my head after then. Ash!
A missed opportunity.
A missed opportunity indeed.
Okay, the final question.
Okay.
Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, it's great.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because that was the first few words that came out of my mouth. What about you?
This is aspirational.
Uh-huh.
It will all be fun.
Love it. I love it. I love that we had to count it out as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that was a good getting to know you, actually.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone knows more about us. You didn't ask for it, but
No, but you got it.
you got it.
And
yeah.
you can try the callback questionnaire at home.
Yeah, this is a good one,
Use it with
especially as
your
you gather
friends.
for Christmas, what
Dinner
you can
parties.
do. Yeah. So there you go. You are welcome for that idea, for those long family lunches that seem to go on for very long
Yeah.
over Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
These things will help,
Yeah.
100%.
Sorry, that seems like it will go on for a lot longer if everyone's answering 15 questions.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but that's what you need to sometimes. So it keeps the conversation on point. Everyone gets along.
Away from all the controversial
That's
topics.
right. That's
okay.
right. So
Well done,
again,
well
you're
done.
welcome, everyone. But we should get into our themes. I'm
Yes,
really
we should.
interested to hear about your themes
Okay.
because the world of Ash's brain is one that I'm always
Scary.
very curious about. This is why we're such good friends. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So our highlights for the season wrapped up in a semi-thematic analysis with some just random highlights thrown in there for good fun because we're going rogue.
It was a good season. It
Yeah.
was a good season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first highlight for me was how we started with Emily Pryor and the lived experience and consumer perspective and really kind of grounding us and reminding us of why it is that we do what we do.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. When I wrote my top 10, it was most certainly the lived experience because at the end of the day, if you don't hear that voice, if you are not working toward the reason for why we're doing all of this, then you've kind of just lost the point of it all. You know, research for research's sake, therapy for therapy's sake. There's people on the other side of it that are the consumers, essentially, of what it is that we do.
Yep.
So it's worth pushing the boundaries. It's worth looking into evidence base. It's worth making that stance because the people matter.
Yeah. And involving those people in decisions and choices about what they're doing is, vital.
It's so, so vital. And their insights were so incredible. You know, how Emily spoke about the F words, how Connor spoke about his experiences, being involved in research and now being in the industry himself and strengthening and what he's doing in that space is pretty inspiring.
Very inspiring and a pretty unique insight into...
So always bring it down to the person. I like that.
The second one I had was, I'd named this theme, our research powerhouses.
Love it.
So
they all come to mind.
They all come to mind. Mark Belgrove, Andrew Whitehouse, Peter Rosenbaum, Laurent Servet, who talked to us about SMA. But I think the really kind of key questions to boil all of those incredible conversations down into some really key questions, for me, it was, you know, Andrew's question he posed about how much therapy is the right amount.
And that is
start with.
Such a big question, isn't it? Because dosage is one of those things that is where the opportunity and the time cost starts to come in. Not only are you talking about, say, what the ingredients of the actual interventions is one thing, but how much you do of it's the other thing, and that's the commodity that none of us have enough of. It's a limited commodity. And how he boiled that down to why that quality is so important, and it's more important than quantity, speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It really does, and I think it tied beautifully into our conversation with Peter Rosenbaum about taking a strengths-based approach and not trying to fix people, playing into their strengths, and therapy being focused on building a person up and focusing on what they can and want to do. And, you know, to me, when Andrew talks about, you know, how much therapy is the right amount and doing therapy at what cost, I think about those F words of family and friends and fun. And are we keeping those things in mind when we're prescribing interventions to children?
And that's why that framework of the F words is so powerful, because it puts all of those important life things in the center of conversation. Again, bringing it down to people. And I have to admit, obviously, interviewing Peter Rosenbaum was a definite, fangirl
Side
moment.
highlight.
Oh my goodness, that was wonderful. For him to so generously spend time talking to us about all of that, but it was very thought-provoking.
Definitely.
And you know, the thought that I had from that is you would never go to an appointment and have someone point out all the things that are wrong with you and pick them out on all different levels and go, okay, all right, well, that's what we'll base it on. You know, we all want to feel valued. We all want to know what we can build on and what we currently have. Telling me that I don't have long enough legs to do rowing, well, I can't fix my legs.
No.
Why would we say that to children who are born with a neurodevelopmental disorder? Let's work on their strengths and build them up. And that message came really loud and clear with him, wasn't it?
Because it's really counterproductive, isn't it? Say, okay, if that's the thing you want to do, these are all the things we need to fix before that happens. Rather
You're not
than,
even there.
Okay, this is what you want to do. What can we do to support you and the environment that you're in?
That's right.
To help make that happen.
And I guess that links so well to Diane Damiano, who is an absolute titan of the industry. You know, as a young physiotherapist, you always see her name pop up, and she was a person that transformed so much of our approaches, shifting away from really passive interventions to things that are really active. She really led the way. So to speak with her was another one of those wow moments. And I remember her saying, one of the things that she was wanting to really highlight was the importance of being convincing and being bold in our messaging so we can help our families. And to hear her say that, someone with all her knowledge to say that, was really, really encouraging, because we all need to do it. and how much she just cherished childhood. And she said that, you know, to get really small gains, you have to work really hard. And it's really important that we understand that. And so therefore, if you're going to use that time as best you can with the evidence that's there. It's the best we've got. It's not perfect, but it's the best we've got in that childhood time. Again, F words, right?
F words.
Came right back down to that again.
I still have in my mind that comment she made, you know, there is an urgency to rehab. And, you know, the developing brain is, like you said, it's so precious and it's so powerful. So why wouldn't you be using the evidence-based tools to help you get the most impact out of what you're doing?
And I feel like that's the strongest argument for evidence-based practice. You know, evidence-based practice isn't cold in a vacuum. It is all about people. And when you put that into perspective and going, okay, these brains, they're developing now, they're precious, childhood is precious, there's an urgency about it, let's get on with it. So
let's not waste time doing things that we don't understand or we don't know, there's no evidence for the benefit of them. So
that's right. And I kind of like how that links to what Ginny Pallig said and Boomer Ravamutham as well. They were both so beautiful in how they said, well, Boomer was like, let's be humble. When you look at the data, actually very few of these experts could identify dystonia when they were walking. So let's just take that step back and be humble. And then you have Ginny saying, look, it's not personal. If it doesn't pan out, move on. And I love that perspective.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. That sums it up beautifully. And I think, you know, Laurent Sauvé, who another one of our research powerhouses who talked to us about SMA, I think really highlighted another important factor, and that is the power of early detection.
Oh, yes.
And the economic cost analysis that they did looking at SMA when it's detected via early screening versus being detected through the onset of symptoms. You know, for those kids who are detected earlier, the outcomes are much better for them, for their families, for the system. In terms of the financial impact. But, you know, obviously there are other impacts as well.
Absolutely.
Compared to those children who are detected a little bit later.
Yeah, that was, you know, when you consider the science in that space at the moment, it's pretty incredible. And I've been so fortunate to meet people who have actually been the recipients of that science, even right here in our clinical practice. You know, I've met a girl that was detected at 10 months and as a result is now able to do so much more than children before her, who unfortunately we didn't have these detection capabilities and these drugs available. And to see where they are now and where they could have been, like we're actually seeing it happen. And the conversation I had with this family was, you know, we actually don't know where this is going to lead to. Like there's no limit or boundary we can place for these children anymore, because this is the first time we're seeing children who have SMA but now have had these treatments and we're seeing it stopped in its tracks. So to see that translation is pretty amazing.
And so I think, you know, we're incredibly fortunate to be able to talk to Laurent about that and learn more about SMA. And we'll touch on that again a little bit in one of our other themes coming up. But I think, you know, talking about those research powerhouses, putting a priority on the therapy and what we're doing and taking a strengths-based approach leads us into that next theme around how self-directed and initiated movements change our brains.
Oh, goosebumps.
This gets you fizzing, I know.
I could tell as you were saying it. This is, for me, having that absolute confirmation. We know this, but actually looking at the brain scans, you know, so Yannick Blainhoff, and obviously she's been instrumental in looking at brain activation using functional MRI. And to see that self-initiated movement we don't say self-initiated for the sake of it. It's because movement comes from somewhere. It comes from pre-planning. And that highlights in the brain activity, the pre-planning, the premotor cortex and the cerebellum, they all fire up before the movement actually starts. So if we are initiating the movements ourselves as therapists, we've taken away that premotor cortex planning part of it. So it makes sense that children become really dependent on your hands because they've never practiced that part of it. It's not task specific.
They're not warming their brains up to actually do that activity.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that whole, idea, and that's really transformed even how we think and how we put our frameworks in our practice at the moment, is a whole task is the ability for a child to self-initiate a movement or anything of their desire in a context or an environment as independently as possible.
Yeah.
So when you break it down to the part task, you really have to think about brain activation through all of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one definitely got me a fizzing.
I loved it.
And it's a very simple thing that we can do in our practice to be as hands-off as we can to get those changes, because that's how the brain works. And the fact that the brain for these children work in exactly the same way as our brains, like they're consistent. So there's not some different magical process that happens for these kids. If it's not how you learn, it's not how our children learn.
Yeah.
And we can only think about learning how to drive a car. the whole process of how you have to do that. You can't have someone do it for you. You can't be navigating and suddenly know how to drive a car.
No.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. Such a great analogy.
It was, wasn't it? I loved it, as you can tell.
As you can tell.
As you can tell. I'll stop now.
No, that's okay. I think the other really key takeaway from our chat with Yannick for me was, we talked about brain activation in the context of the Habitual program. It's quite a high dosage program, and we talked about the fact that that's not always realistic to achieve in a clinical environment, and with the other expectations around children and their priorities as well. But I think Yannick's point about the fact that it's so important to get the active ingredients of an intervention right rather than focusing on the dosage.
Yes.
To me, that's really powerful, because you could spend 90 hours doing something.
Yes.
But if it's 90 hours of doing something without those active ingredients, it's time wasted.
That's right. That's such a good point. I'm so glad he brought that up. And that was consistent with what Ros Boyd, Professor Ros Boyd, who does so much research in this space, is saying too. It's less about the hours and it's more about the quality. And again, Professor Angie Whitehouse said that too, and that's in a different diagnostic group. So once again, really consistent.
Yeah, and transdiagnostic.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think, that elements of that were also reinforced by our conversation with Diane and Ginny.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we've touched on.
Yeah.
But the other episode that comes to mind when we talk about this idea of self-initiated movements was our conversation with Anna Carolina de Campos.
Oh, yeah.
And how motivating choice is for children. It's all wrapped up in this concept of self-identity and autonomy and curiosity.
Yes.
And, promoting choice for the children that we're working with is so important.
So important.
Because of, the benefits of self-initiating movement, but also all of the downstream effects of that, building their confidence, opening their world and offering them opportunities. I think
that was a beautiful paper to sum up all those thoughts, really, wasn't it? And I love how the idea of choice, how wasn't that the center of everything that we talk about, really? Because if you force someone to do something, force someone to do therapy, well, they're not really motivated. For one, cortisol gets released. You're not going to have those dopamine, like reinforcement. But also just you haven't given someone, it's so fundamental to development is to make decisions and make choices. And I certainly know in our clinical practice, for some children, offering them choice is the absolute key that unlocks everything. Give them some options and choices, let them choose. Our job is to set up the environment and the tasks so that they can experience all of that as actively as possible. And then, your sessions are so much more meaningful and translatable outside of the clinical world.
And choice ultimately drives movement. If that's what we're trying to, if that's the focus of what we're doing, is to promote opportunities for movement, then offering choice is really key to that. And, ties back into all of those F words.
It does, 100%. We should write a paper on this, my goodness. Put them all together, because it is, isn't it? It all ties it back together. I have a feeling I know what your next theme's going to be from there. I think you've tied it in nicely.
If we're talking about choice-driving movement, we lead into this theme of mobility as a human, mobility being a human right.
100%. That was So great. And it was first introduced with Diane and Ginny's episode where we talked about the on-time mobility framework. And you know, that was like, oh, so that's coming out. So it was so good to delve into that in more detail, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we got to talk to Heather Fellner and Andrina Sabe about the on-time mobility framework and really unpacked all of those key concepts within the framework, all very interrelated, all very practical and easy to translate into practice, I think.
That's right. You know, not only were they talking about supported stepping devices, but also powered mobility, really recognizing the cognitive development in children and how mobility unlocks all those opportunities.
Yes.
So by keeping children restrained on the floor, I remember that's how we were trained for a little while. And I was talking to them about that sort of off air. And I remember saying the way we were taught originally was, you know, children with hemiplegia, for example, they're going to get up and walk. So for as long as you can, keep them on the floor so you can get as much symmetrical movement as you can. And saying that, you know, things have shifted so much. No, get them off the floor, get them up and moving. You know, let's work on their opportunities to explore, develop their sense of self. And that doesn't just relate to children who we know will be functionally ambulant in the future. These are also for children who we know will require equipment and daily physical assistance. Well, now we introduce equipment as early as possible to allow them to move. And then that's where all their social, emotional, cognitive development all comes into play.
That changes their understanding of the world.
It does.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. It makes so much sense. And I love how they just wrapped it up in this beautiful package with that mobility is a human right. What a way to really transform the way people think.
Yeah. And I think we unpacked that some more as well with Sam Logan. We talked about powered mobility. We also talked about powered mobility with Rocio Palomo Carrion for our SMA population.
That's right.
So bringing it back to that. And it's just, this, for me, the key takeaway is that it's on time. It's not early.
Yeah.
Because children move in all different ways very early on. So it's offering those opportunities on time.
Yeah. And it's better to be able to do it than to wait and look for the quality for them to be able to do that movement in perfect alignment. And again, I love how they brought that up. It's like, when did that happen where we became so obsessed with the perfect alignment and the perfect way to carry out an activity before moving on to the next level? When
Especially
we
when
never expect that.
Yeah, it's something that's not attainable either. We're asking for something that we're very unlikely to get.
That's right. There is a neurodevelopmental disorder, there's spasticity, there's hypertonia, there's dystonia. It is such an unfair thing to ask for a child to be able to do that before they can even participate. And when you put it in that context, you go, wow, mobility is a human right.
Yeah.
100% we should get every opportunity for our children. And I love how for both of those studies in powered mobility, there's, you know, really clear objective data that shows that on the Baileys, for example, there's developmental changes on all of the domains when you introduce mobility on time.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful. And what a way to encourage our industry to move forward with this.
Yeah. My next theme was labelled the thought provokers.
Ooh, okay, I can see where you go with this one. Yes,
I think they're all really thought-provoking conversations. Should just say that to start with, and we learnt a lot from everyone. But I think, some more philosophical thinking was kickstarted by our conversation with Daniel Navon.
Oh, yeah.
Who talked to us about a sociological take on genetic testing.
Yeah.
And I think I really enjoyed that conversation, and my brain hurt after that, which is always a good thing. It always means that it's stretching and trying to, take on these new perspectives and these new ideas. But, those really key questions that he asked us to reflect on. What does a test tell us?
That's right. Yeah.
And what is the benefit of that? What is the cost of that? It can give us information about diagnoses, about problems that and differences that a person might be likely to experience.
That's right.
But whether they actually go on to experience those, we can't guarantee.
That's right. Yeah.
Does it give us information about the best way to approach treatment? I know that, as a clinician, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, because someone has a very rare genetic mutation and we don't know what that child might look like, the problem with that is you can end up putting all these boxes around that in terms of what their potential might be and how they might present. And I like how he spoke about autism spectrum disorder or autistic-like features that may come across in some genetic conditions. And though it may seem like that, you know, eye contact might be more pronounced in one group than the other. And so you actually just need to understand what it means clinically and functionally rather than looking at the actual diagnostic label.
Yeah.
And what that means from a policy perspective and what they might be able to access, or are we waiting for something that might not happen, and what do we do in the meantime? Well, I think when we look across the board from a transdiagnostic perspective, what do we do in the meantime? Strengths-based approach.
Yeah.
What do we need to be working on to help them to participate?
Yeah.
And look at those F words. We can still proceed.
And look at the person in front of you.
Look at the person. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, one of my takeaways from that conversation was, you know, leaving room for growth and hope and, you know, that being part of the conversation, because it is a very complex conversation.
It is.
And, you know, as clinicians, it's something that I think is on the table more frequently now in conversations with parents.
Yeah.
So we have to be prepared to have those conversations and to have those questions asked and to come along for the ride, I think.
And it's something that we all need to be aware of. You know, as the technology evolves, there's still a lot of unknowns that he brought up too. And there's also some predatory sort of approaches where you can get these screens, but what does it mean and what support you have around you? You shouldn't have a test done unless you have a full team around you to help to make sense of what it means.
Yes. And to counsel you through that.
That's right. And he did sort of say, look, we do need more people in that industry, so great job direction if anyone wants to go there. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was a great one. He asked as many questions as we asked him. And that was the thing.
We like that.
Yeah, that was good.
And so I think, you know, as part of this theme as well, I think about our conversation with Ben Jackson.
Yes.
And those persuasion and communication skills that are so important for us to understand as clinicians. You know, those soft skills are really vital.
Yep.
And I think there was, some really great takeaways from our conversation with Ben about how we approach and taking a generous approach to those conversations with people, because it's, you know, it's not just about how you deliver information, it's about how that information is received and what comes back to you. So really understanding the reciprocal nature of conversation.
That's right. I love how he really highlighted the science behind communication. You know, motivational interviewing has a wealth of evidence that supports its effectiveness. And really, if you can engage in those active listening and take on some of those main principles of motivational interviewing, you're already, again, evidence-based in that communication and how we draw information to provide an intervention is so vital. And the other side of that, it's science communication. You know, like the two sort of go so hand in hand. Like how do we make sure what it is that we know is getting into the right hands, and knowing those weapons of influence that he brought up is so vital. You know, there's liking, authority, scarcity, social proof, reciprocity, and consistency. You know, they can all be harnessed for good, and sometimes they're not so good too. And be aware of that. And
I think that ties in beautifully to our conversation with Jessica Stokes-Parrish.
That was great, wasn't it?
As well, around, you know, science communication, misinformation, disinformation.
I was really shocked there was a difference between the two, and the fact that there is disinformation. That's really scary to me. I felt very disturbed after that, thinking people would put out information on purpose that is meant to mislead you. And it's good to know about it, because you just want to make sure you can discern between what is, you know, information you can draw life perspective on and make decisions on, versus ones you just go, nope, no thank you. And she had that very practical strategy.
She really crabs.
Yep, crabs indeed, where I missed the whole point of the icebreaker and went in a different direction. But crabs was just a great way to actually go through information that you might see in social media, a quick mnemonic that allows you to discern and improve your health and digital literacy, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me as well, it's that checking in on your confirmation bias.
100%.
Because the whole world around us is set up to feed that confirmation bias. All of the algorithms that you see on social media, you know, the choices that you make in terms of the news or the information that you're digesting.
Yes.
To every so often just reflect on that and think, okay, well, what is the counterpoint
I love that.
to this thing that I'm reading?
Yeah.
And I should also, if I'm reading this and taking this perspective on it, I should also read about the other perspectives as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I love how she kept saying, you've got to just train your brain to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And as people who want to harness the powers of neuroplasticity in the brain for the kids that we work with, we have to do the same too, you know. So if you, for example, if you see a particular, intervention online that is non-evidence-based, and we keep talking about it being non-evidence-based, and it feels uncomfortable, well, that's the other view. And so take a moment to look at that other view and why people are saying that, you know. So I think it goes in both directions. Everyone needs to do that so that they're not caught in their own bubble and not being aware of what's happening and changing. And it goes back to Ginny Pallig, you know, it's not personal. If it doesn't pan out, move on.
Yeah.
And that perspective means you're always looking for something else.
Yeah.
That might be sitting outside your box.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so good.
It was great. So I have some other random highlights I just wanted to talk about because it's nice to reflect. And I think the first somewhat random one was the fact that we achieved a pretty significant milestone with the podcast this season.
Yes.
We got to episode 100.
That's actually really cool. That's actually worth highlighting.
It's
a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wouldn't have been possible without all of the incredible researchers and families and people who gave up their time to talk to us.
Yeah.
To do the work.
Yes. As we hear the many years that lead into the publication.
Yeah. And so I think, just a big thank you to everyone for their generosity in sharing their experiences and their work and their journeys. And we feel, I think, I'm speaking on behalf of both of us here, but
Absolutely.
I think we're very grateful
Absolutely.
that we have the opportunity to speak to those people every week.
Yeah. It speaks to the kind-heartedness of so many of these researchers that really do just genuinely get the work out there because they've seen the impact and they want to make a change.
Yeah.
So reminds me of the Man in the Mirror song. See? Back to Michael Jackson. Anyway, that's what goes on in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be my song. Man in the Mirror, make a change. Yeah.
The second somewhat random highlight for me was seeing the podcast go international.
Ooh, that was cool.
And all of the incredibly hard work that you and producer Ed put into getting all of those episodes at EACD recorded and produced and out. That was just a huge effort, and
it was.
I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help with that, but I just really I'm so proud of both of you and what you achieved and being able to cheer you on from the sidelines.
Thank you. I know
incredible.
We definitely missed you, and all of our guests were probably really missing you too because I butchered so many names. I will never get past
butcher
that.
The names.
You do so much better than I do, but it was so wonderful to actually go international, meet people, spread the word on their work, and have the conference live on. You know, sometimes you go to a conference, there's so much there, you want to go back to listen to things.
Yeah.
That was incredible, and we met so many amazing people, and the one that really highlights and stands out to me was Ruslan Vastian, and he spoke about, you know, as a father of a child with cerebral palsy, how they had to leave Ukraine, and that journey of getting out of the country with her equipment and survival, and it was pretty surreal to hear that story, and it's just something that I think we should always keep in mind, and how difficult and challenging it really was, and but to see him on the other side of it was pretty amazing. But that was one of many episodes. It was incredible.
And you know, just to give everyone a little peek behind the curtain as well, just the fact that you managed to get all of the podcasting equipment there and back safely, I think is also quite a big achievement.
I literally was sitting by the plane and when I could look outside and see things being loaded. It's like it's the internal flights. I'm like, that's our bag. Be careful, be careful, be careful. And it's on. Okay, good.
Okay,
We've got a podcast.
Very
yes,
stressful.
it was very
not to be
nerve-wracking.
underestimated.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, behind the scenes was quite another thing.
Yeah. And my final, potentially biggest highlight for the season was our first MP, the Honourable Bill Shorten.
Yes.
I think that conversation with Bill was so... I think I was just a little bit starstruck, first of all.
Yes.
Certainly, quite
studio.
a high-profile person coming into our studio and talking to us, and again, being very generous with his time with us. But I think it wraps everything up beautifully in this package of evidence-based practice.
Yeah. I love, and it's so reassuring for everyone. I mean, I know this really affects mainly Australians, and hopefully it's something that can roll out across the world.
Yeah.
It has to start somewhere, and I just love that the focus now is evidence-based. If you want your intervention to be funded, it must be evidence-based, and that's the direction it's moving in. And I couldn't be prouder, and I think it's so important, and it's so person-centered. What an exciting time.
Yeah, it makes our system sustainable.
That's
I
right.
think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect. We're not saying it's perfect.
No.
We're not making commentary on that. At the end of the day, innovations come about because choice and control has come into the hands of the people who receive the services, and we certainly wouldn't be around if we didn't have the NDIS. So we've got the ball rolling. It's not perfect yet, but we're all on this journey to making it sustainable, and research has been the key to that.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting for any researchers that are out there to know that your time investment in this space is going to translate. It's so cool.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good themes. You qualitative researcher, you.
I can't help it.
Oh, I love it. It's so good. We do maybe potentially have time for one question, and I feel like we probably should go into this because he's been listening to every single episode, and he has formulated his own thoughts. For the record, I feel like I do need to say we've never prepped Ed, poor Ed.
We really throw him in the deep end.
We really do, don't we? We sort of say, we've got this person coming on and they're going to talk about this, and most of the time he doesn't even know, and he listens to the conversation. So we really just give him the opportunity to ask a question that comes really just in that moment. So
and he nails it every time.
He does, and we've heard of new research things being generated from this question, so it's fabulous. So we're going to jump over to you, Ed. So Ed, as you know, is our producer. He doesn't have a background in child health, and he's the one that we're going to call to now to sort of wrap this up, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, what a
pressure.
privilege. Wow. So Ed, what was your highlight for this season?
Well, one single highlight.
Yeah.
It's a clear boundary there.
There was a boundary, wasn't there?
It's actually pretty tough because the pod has obviously grown a lot over the last 3 years, and we're now kind of approaching the 6-figure mark and above for our listeners, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And obviously it started in a very, very small little office type space and grown to its own little studio, which
humble
is
beginnings.
Oh, that suitcase we'd had to take up the stairs
Yeah.
and set up in a little room. Oh, my goodness.
sorry that you took up the stairs. Producer Ed took it up the
Producer
stairs.
Ed did take it up the stairs.
He did.
Yeah.
I opened the door and put the code in.
Yeah.
I
And it
wouldn't
was
have got
hot.
through the door without that.
That's
so.
right.
But my highlight for the year would probably be taking the pod on the road. So Ash, sadly, that leaves you slightly out of the picture. But
That's
like
okay.
Dayna said, we did miss you greatly.
We really did.
Because I will probably cut in to this particular part of the pod some of the highlights from Dayna's pronunciations. So we did our very best. And Dayna did apologise, and it's hard for English-speaking people to get all the names of Europeans in general who have like very different dialects. And
There's French, then there's German, then there's Belgium. I can't do it. And then there's
It's
the
okay.
Danish.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's really hard.
so Ash, long and short is that we did miss you a great deal. But more than that was probably the stories of the people who found the pod very useful. Obviously, lots of people have written in or expressed how much the pod means to them, and people from all over the world. And it's just been great to know that we're able to help and assist other people to find the right information. Because as was discussed just last week, it can be really difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
So that would be my highlight. So
That's a
we
good
missed you,
highlight.
Ash. Dayna did provide immense comedic value and incredible professionalism, because you have to realise with that many interviews at such a close range done over the course of 3 days, it's actually very difficult to do.
It really is.
So you kind of have to be switched on like from start to finish. So a job well done by the entire pod. And Ash, you touched on Minister Shorten as well. So again, that would probably be my second highlight, but I snuck one in there.
You snuck one in, no, that's a good one.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, we're so lucky we get to do this. And whilst you couldn't come this year, next year, however, Ash and I and producer Ed will be at EACD in Bruges.
We will.
We're very excited. And we'll also be at the Oz ACPDN in Cairns. That's how you say it. Cairns.
Yes.
In northern Queensland. So we are going to go to 2 conferences, bringing you the very best of both of them.
Yeah,
so
doubling your on-the-road content.
we will be. All this gear, let it make it there. But the best thing is we get to do it together.
Absolutely.
So there's so much to look forward to. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We have thoroughly enjoyed our time with you. Thank you for engaging with us and being so passionate about research. We just love it.
Yeah, we really do. And, while we're on a break, if there's papers that you see or people that you come across that you think would be great for us to talk to, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. And between now and the next season, Ash will be having a baby.
Oh, yeah.
So in case we haven't actually told anyone that, have we?
I don't know if we have.
So, yes, we will be coming back for sure in the new season. So stay tuned for that. We've got some great content for you. So thank you once again and have a great holiday season.
Yes, enjoy your break.
Yes. And to everyone, thank you very much one more time and goodbye.
Bye.
Three seasons.
Wow.
Done.
We did it.
That's pretty wild.
So wild. Have you listened to that one, then went back and listened to our first episode?
I can't. I can't. And I see people still listen to it, and I'm like,
oh, don't.
Oh, we're so much better now.
Start at this end.
But I can't. I've literally gone to it. I'm like, should I? And I can't.